In the marble halls of Manhattan's most powerful family, 16-year-old Serafina Rothschild had not spoken a single word in 10 years. Not one. Her silence drifted through the mansion like an unbroken ghost, so constant that the staff no longer questioned it, merely worked around it, as though it were another priceless artifact collecting dust beneath crystal chandeliers. Doctors called it selective mutism. Therapists whispered about trauma. Specialists argued over neurological charts and MRI scans. The Rothschild family spent millions searching for a diagnosis, a cure, a miracle. Nothing worked. Serafina drifted through her days like a fragile porcelain doll, handled carefully, never spoken to directly, and always photographed from her good side for the annual holiday card. But the silence wasn't emptiness, it was armor. And the only person who seemed to realize that didn't arrive until the morning an 18-year-old boy from the Bronx stepped through the mansion's service entrance with secondhand sneakers and a backbone forged in survival. Ezra Thompson. A boy who had grown up where gunshots were lullabies, where quiet meant danger, and where reading a person's expression could save your life. A world away from marble floors and generational wealth. Victoria Rothschild surveyed him like he was a disappointing package Amazon accidentally delivered to her doorstep. "She's defective," she declared to the social worker, as though discussing a broken appliance. 10 years of the world's best specialists in nothing? Perhaps someone from his background. Her eyes raked over him with a disgust he'd felt his entire life, can reach her damaged mind. Ezra didn't flinch. He'd been called worse in foster homes where affection was optional, but cruelty was routine. Racism rolled off him the way rain slid off fire escapes. Annoying, familiar, and relentless. The staff whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. "What's next? Hiring the janitors as therapists? I heard they brought him because he's cheap. Because he's disposable." Ezra ignored them. He didn't care what wealthy strangers thought of him. He cared about the hospital bills piling up on his mother's dresser. He cared about Maya, Kelvin, and little Jules, his siblings sleeping together on the same mattress to stay warm. He cared about the eviction notice shoved under their apartment door like a threat. $2,000 a week could save them, could keep his mother alive a little longer, could keep his siblings fed. So he swallowed his pride, straightened his shoulders, and followed the head butler through the maze-like corridors of the Rothschild estate. Harrison, stiff as a broom handle and twice as humorless, guided him past portraits whose frames alone cost more than Ezra would earn in a year. "The girl rarely leaves her room," Harrison said, voice cold as the marble beneath our feet. "She draws all day, mostly nonsense. Sometimes she has episodes, screaming fits. No words, of course. The stepmother is losing patience." Ezra slowed. What happened to her mother? Harrison's steps faltered. Just slightly. "Dead, years ago. Natural causes." The lie clung to the air like humidity. Ezra said nothing, but he noticed the tightening of Harrison's jaw, the way his eyes flicked toward the West Wing, and the tremor of avoidance in his voice. People told on themselves when they lied. Ezra learned to listen to the subtleties. They reached Serafina's door, white with gold trim, more ornate than anything he'd ever seen. Harrison knocked once, didn't wait, pushed the door open. Her room was enormous, larger than his entire apartment building's top floor. High ceilings, heavy drapes blocking sunlight, furniture she probably wasn't allowed to sit on, a cage disguised as luxury. Serafina sat with her back to the door, hunched over a desk. Soft blonde hair spilled like a waterfall down her back. Her hand moved across a sketch pad with unsettling precision. Lines and curves flowed like she wasn't drawing, but remembering. She didn't look up, but Ezra noticed something. The moment he stepped inside, her fingers hesitated. Just for a heartbeat. Fear. Not of him, of what his presence meant. "Hey," he said gently, the same tone he used when comforting kids in foster care after nighttime panic attacks. No reaction. No glance. But her shoulders curled inward as though bracing for something she'd grown accustomed to. He didn't approach her from behind like everyone else probably did. Instead, he walked around, slowly, until he was in her line of sight. He sat on the Persian rug, crossing his legs. "I used to draw too, when I didn't have words for stuff." Her pencil froze. Ezra didn't push. Instead, he watched her drawing, not in a creepy way, more like he was studying a puzzle only she knew the answer to. It wasn't nonsense, not even close. The lines were too purposeful, the angles too deliberate. She was drawing people, a cluster of figures, tall and shadowed, surrounding what looked like a man collapsing. The perspective was skewed, like the memory came from someone very small, looking up through terrified eyes. Ezra felt something crack inside his chest. She wasn't sick, she was remembering. "Sometimes pictures say things voices can't," he murmured. Slowly, Serafina lifted her gaze. Her blue eyes cut through him like winter wind, sharp and haunting, but beneath the ice he saw something no one else seemed to notice. Not emptiness, not madness, a scream trapped behind her ribs. She wasn't mute, she was surviving. Her gaze flickered to the door, then back to him, as though warning him. They're watching. Ezra understood. Surveillance, fear, secrets. Silence wasn't her disorder, it was her shield. He didn't speak again. He just stayed there, grounded and calm, letting her feel his presence, solid, steady, and safe. She lowered her eyes and began drawing again. Only now the strokes were faster, urgent, as if something long dormant had stirred. Outside the room, footsteps echoed, Harrison returning. Ezra stood quickly, stepping aside, but not before noticing one last detail in her drawing. One of the shadowy figures had a ring with the Rothschild family crest. Meanwhile, downstairs, racism dripped into his life like slow poison. At breakfast the next morning, cook Maria Rodriguez set a plate in the far corner of the kitchen, a plate separate from the staff dining table. "That's your spot," Harrison announced with a tight, performative smile. "We maintain order in this house." Order. Ezra had heard many versions of that word growing up, usually from people who used order as camouflage for cruelty. He didn't argue. He had more important things to worry about. His mother's medication, his siblings' safety, keeping this job. But as he took a seat at that lonely corner table, he couldn't shake the feeling that something inside this mansion was rotten, dangerous. And Serafina, the girl everyone dismissed as defective, might be the only person who knew the truth.
The girl who hadn't spoken in 10 years, yet watched everything and remembered everything.
Ezra's second morning at the Rothschild estate began before dawn, long before the sun brushed the skyline. He had always been an early riser. Habit, necessity, trauma, who knew anymore? But in this mansion, waking early felt essential. The halls were different at this hour, stripped of the performance of wealth, stripped of staff gliding like obedient shadows. Early morning showed the cracks. He noticed the quiet first. Not peace, a tense, humming quiet that lived inside walls lined with secrets. He passed portraits of Rothschild ancestors, stern men with colder eyes than the marble busts downstairs. Their frames gleamed gold even under dim lighting, but Ezra couldn't help noticing something off. Every portrait of a woman was missing. Not relocated, removed. He filed that away. People like the Rothschilds didn't remove things without reason. He reached the kitchen just as Maria Rodriguez, the cook, stepped inside from the side entrance, shaking off the cold with a shiver. "You're up early," she said, startled but smiling warmly. the first real kindness he'd seen inside this mansion. "Couldn't sleep," Ezra said, rubbing the back of his neck. "Working here will do that," Maria sighed and placed her purse aside. "Sit. I'll make you something before the others come in." Ezra opened his mouth to protest. She shut him up with one raised eyebrow. Her kindness wasn't pity, it was rebellion. She served him warm tortillas, eggs, and spiced beans. Nothing fancy, just food made with soul, something Ezra hadn't tasted since his mother's health began declining. He ate slowly, savoring it. Maria watched him with a sort of sad softening. "You remind me of my son. Same age, same eyes." Ezra smiled faintly. Lucky kid. Her face cracked, just slightly. "He's gone." Ezra froze, fork midair. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Maria nodded, brushing tears away with the back of her hand. "Life in this house has a cost, Ezra. You'll learn." Before he could ask what she meant, the door swung open and Harrison entered like a chill breeze. He eyed Ezra's plate with disdain. "Breakfast is at 7 for the staff, not 6. Maria stiffened. "He was hungry." "It's fine," Ezra said quickly. He didn't want Maria taking heat for him. Harrison's lips curled. "Let's not pretend the boy isn't used to skipping meals." Ezra felt the insult slam into him, but he swallowed it. He had seen what happened when poor kids snapped back at rich masters. They lost everything. And he couldn't afford to lose anything. Not when his mother's medicine was running out. Not when rent was overdue. Not when 3 little siblings depended on him. He set his plate aside calmly. "Can I go see Serafina now?" Harrison studied him for a long moment, as if searching for an angle to break him. "Very well," the butler finally said, "but follow the rules. She is fragile, sensitive, and you," his gaze swept Ezra like a scanner, "are not here to make friends." Ezra nodded once. He understood rules. He'd lived under 1,000 of them, each more unfair than the last, but none had stopped him before. Serafina's room was dim again, curtains drawn tightly enough that the morning light barely whispered through. She sat where she always sat, hunched at her desk, drawing. Only today, her drawing was different. No figures, no shadows. She was drawing a face. A woman's face. Ezra approached slowly, giving her time to sense him. She didn't turn, but he felt her breathing shift. Recognition, anxiety, relief. He couldn't tell yet. "Morning," Ezra said softly. Her hand paused mid-stroke, then continued more rapidly, as though hiding something. Ezra didn't push. He walked around her the same way he had yesterday, letting her see him approach, letting her decide whether to acknowledge him. She didn't. Not with her face, at least. But he noticed her foot tapping beneath the desk, small, rhythmic, anxious, a silent language all its own. He lowered himself onto the rug again, cross-legged. "Didn't sleep much," Ezra said casually, pretending not to notice her eyes flick up at him before darting back to the page. Her grip tightened around the pencil, knuckles turning white. "And I saw the figure yesterday. The man falling, the shadows around him." This time, her hand froze completely. Ezra softened his voice. "You don't have to show me anything, or trust me, or talk. I'm not here to force anything out of you." A tiny tremor rippled through her shoulders. "I'm just here." He placed a hand lightly on his knee, not moving toward her. "In case you need someone who actually sees you." The pencil fell. Not dropped, fallen. Like her fingers couldn't hold it anymore. Ezra stilled. Serafina's breathing had changed. Deep, uneven, almost shaky. Not panic exactly. More like hope. A fragile, unfamiliar hope. Her head turned, barely, until her eyes met his. The same winter blue gaze, but softer. Worried, afraid to be seen. Ezra held her gaze with a steadiness he wished someone had offered him when he was a scared kid bouncing around foster homes. "He don't see you," he whispered. Her lip quivered. "But I do." Her chest hitched. He didn't blink. He didn't look away. He gave her the one thing trauma victims needed most: control. She could break the gaze first. She didn't. Instead, her eyes flicked downward, toward the half-drawn face on the page. Ezra leaned forward slightly, not enough to threaten, just enough to see. The woman in the sketch had Ezra's eyes, but older, tired, haunted. The resemblance hit Ezra like a punch. "Your mother?" he asked softly. Serafina didn't move. Her pencil rolled off the desk and clattered to the floor. Ezra reached for it slowly, watching her reaction. Her breath stuttered, but she didn't recoil. He picked it up and placed it on the desk gently. "Thank you," he murmured, not sure why he was thanking her, but knowing instinctively that acknowledging her creation mattered. She blinked, her first response in 10 years, a single blink, but Ezra read languages most people never saw. He liked that he'd treated the sketch with respect. Then, slowly, almost imperceptibly, she slid another paper toward him. A different drawing. This one, Ezra's blood ran cold. 2 men arguing. One of them falling backward over a railing, the other one standing above him. The setting looked like a balcony. The architecture was unmistakable. The Rothschild penthouse balcony. And the man falling, I recognized him from the news. Benjamin Rothschild. Serafina's father. Dead in an accident 10 years ago. Ezra's lungs squeezed. Her silence wasn't trauma. It was survival. He looked up at her, heart pounding, mind racing. Serafina stared at him with wide, pleading eyes. She wanted him to understand. She wanted him to see. She wanted someone, anyone, to help her. A sound in the hallway made her flinch violently. She grabbed both drawings, shoved them beneath a loose floorboard under her desk, and slid the board back into place with trembling hands. Ezra rose as the door burst open.
Victoria Rothschild swept in wearing diamonds before noon. "There you are," she said in her ice-slick voice. "Time for her morning assessment." Serafina's shoulders snapped back into rigid fear. Ezra stepped aside, jaw tight. Victoria gave him a disapproving glance. "Remember your place," she murmured. Ezra didn't answer, but his mind was spinning. Serafina wasn't silent because she was broken. She was silent because she had witnessed her father's murder, and the killer still lived in this house. And now, for the first time in 10 years, she wasn't alone. Ezra wakes before dawn the next morning. His internal clock still synced to the chaos of Bronx survival. Here, in a bedroom bigger than his entire apartment, silence feels wrong. Too clean, too empty. Like everything in the Rothschild mansion, even the quiet seems curated. He dresses quickly. Simple jeans, a clean shirt, sneakers with worn soles. He can feel the staff's disapproval even when they aren't in the room. After last night's incident, if you could call Serafina grabbing his wrist an incident, he expects to be fired before breakfast. Maybe escorted out. Maybe worse. But he isn't. Instead, Harrison is waiting outside his door, stiff as a coffin lid and twice as cold. "Miss Rothschild requests your presence. Immediately." Miss Rothschild, not Mrs. That means Serafina. Ezra's pulse shifts, not fear, not exactly. Something stranger, something like being pulled toward a truth he doesn't yet understand. Harrison escorts him through the hallways, each step echoing off marble so pristine it reflects the chandeliers like trapped stars. Ezra's stomach tightens. Everything in this place feels like it's watching him. They reach her door. Harrison knocks once, unnecessarily loud. "Your companion," he says, dripping disdain, "has arrived." He leaves before Ezra can respond. Coward. Ezra steps inside quietly. Serafina sits by the window, curtains slightly parted, letting in a sliver of morning sun. It casts a pale gold line across her face, illuminating her as if she were carved from fragile glass. But her hands move fast, almost frantic over a new drawing. He sees him before she notices he's entered. A man. Falling. Again. But this time, the perspective is tighter, the angle sharper, and something else. A shape in the corner. Maybe a balcony railing, or a ledge. Ezra's throat tightens. Last night's image returns. Similar shadows. Same tension. Same message. Like she's trying to tell him something only pictures can say. "Morning," he says softly. Serafina stops drawing. Her shoulders rise, then fall. She looks at him. Really looks at him. Something in her eyes is different today. Less fear, more urgency, like a plea trapped behind silence. Ezra steps closer. "Can I sit?" She nods. A nod. Her first willing response. He lowers himself onto the floor beside her. The mansion's luxury doesn't reach this part of the rug. Here, close to her feet, fibers are worn down, the colors faded, a spot where she sits often, a place she's made hers. Ezra studies the drawing. "Someone fell," he murmurs, "or was pushed." Serafina flinches, just barely, but enough that Ezra's instincts flare. Danger. Truth. Trauma. He lowers his voice. "It's connected to you, isn't it?" She doesn't move, doesn't breathe, but her eyes glisten, and in them Ezra sees it clearly for the first time. This isn't selective mutism. This is fear. And fear this deep doesn't come from a disorder. It comes from a threat. "Serafina, did someone hurt you?" No answer, but the pencil in her hand trembles so violently it breaks. The sound, just a tiny snap, makes her jerk as if expecting a blow. Ezra's blood boils. Whatever happened to her wasn't small, it wasn't imagined, and it wasn't years ago. This fear is fresh, present, alive. He gently picks up the pencil fragments. "It's okay. I'm not mad, and no one's gonna hurt you while I'm here." Serafina's breath shakes. Then, with a tiny movement, she pulls the sketchbook away, flips the page, and starts drawing again, fast, furious, lines cutting the paper like blades. Ezra waits. In foster care, patience is a weapon. Rushing someone only closes them off. A few minutes later, she turns the pad toward him. Ezra leans in. This time it isn't a falling man. It's her. A little girl with wide eyes, standing at the edge of a balcony. Behind her looms a tall shadow, featureless, monstrous in its blankness. The girl's mouth is open in a scream no one heard, or one they ignored. Ezra's breath leaves him in a harsh exhale. Before he can speak, a voice pierces the room. "Oh good, I see you've already encouraged her artistic episodes." Ezra shields the drawing instinctively, turning the pad toward himself. Victoria's eyes sharpen. "Put that down." He doesn't move. Her tone shifts, soft, deadly, like silk over steel. "You work for me, boy, not for her." Ezra stands slowly. "If her drawings upset you, maybe you're the problem." The room goes still. Victoria smiles, a terrifying thing. "I could have you removed from this estate in 30 seconds. "Then why haven't you?" Ezra fires back. She opens her mouth, but for a split second, something flickers across her face. Not anger. Fear. Real fear. Ezra files that away immediately. Victoria steps into the room, the click of her heels too sharp in the quiet. She says, voice cold enough to frost glass, "I will be very clear. You are here to keep her calm, nothing more. You will not encourage her delusions, you will not analyze her drawings, and you will not..." Ezra's eyes narrow. Pretend you understand her. Ezra's jaw tightens. I don't pretend. I actually pay attention. Serafina's breath hitches. Victoria whirls on her, and you, she says sharply, stop this nonsense. You're not 5 years old. You're not traumatized. You're indulging your weaknesses. Serafina shrinks backward. Ezra steps between them, without thinking. Back off. Victoria freezes, stunned that anyone, especially someone poor, young, and black, would speak to her that way. A moment passes. Then she laughs, low, cruel. You really think you matter in this house? She asks softly. You're a paycheck, Ezra Thompson. Nothing more. Ezra says nothing. People like her feed on reactions. Silence is its own power. Finally, she spins on her heel. Dinner is at 6. She will attend. You will make sure of it. She leaves. The moment the door closes, Serafina's hands fly to Ezra's sleeve, clutching it so tightly he feels her nails through the fabric. Her breaths come fast, uneven, like she's suffocating. Hey, he murmurs, kneeling down. You're okay. I'm not going anywhere. Her fingers tremble, then release. Something in her eyes shifts, a decision, a breaking point. She reaches for her pencil again, flips a page, and writes, hand shaking violently, just 2 words. 2 words that punch the air out of Ezra's lungs. He knows. Ezra grips the sketchbook. Who knows?
Harrison? Victoria? Someone else? Serafina's eyes fill with tears. She writes one more word. A name. Father. Ezra stares at the shaky letters. Her stepfather? No. She writes it again, this time underlining. My father. Ezra's stomach drops. Her biological father. The one Harrison said died long ago. Natural causes. But Serafina isn't drawing lies. And suddenly, Ezra understands. The falling man. The balcony. The shadow. The scream. It wasn't a memory of a stranger. It wasn't symbolic. It was a witness statement. And Serafina Rothschild has been silent for 10 years because she saw her father die. Not by accident. Not by suicide. Not by illness. But by murder. Someone pushed him. Someone powerful. Someone still here. Someone who threatened a 6-year-old girl into silence and has been watching her ever since. Ezra closes the sketchbook gently. Okay, he whispers. I believe you. For the first time, Serafina's eyes flicker with something like hope. Fragile, barely there, but real. And Ezra makes a silent promise in that moment. Whatever happened 10 years ago, whoever killed her father, whoever terrorized this girl into silence, he's going to uncover the truth, even if it kills him. Because in those haunted blue eyes, Ezra sees the truth the Rothschilds have tried to bury. Serafina didn't stay silent because she was broken. She stayed silent because she was watched. And now that Ezra is here, someone is watching both of them.
Ezra spends the rest of the morning thinking about the 3 words she wrote. He knows. And the 4th, father. Not dead, not forgotten, not natural causes. A murder. A witness. And a decade of silence forced upon a child who still trembles at the sound of footsteps in the hallway. Ezra has seen fear before, every kind of it. The fear of hunger, the fear of drunt foster parents, the fear of sleeping with one eye open. But this is different. This is fear that saturates the air, clings to the walls, lives in the cracks of the mansion like mold. And it makes him feel something he hasn't felt since he was 14. Hunted. That afternoon, Ezra notices it. A subtle change. A tightening. People watch him more openly now. The maids glance away too quickly. The gardener pauses his trimming when Ezra walks past. Harrison's dead-eyed gaze follows him down every hallway. Victoria doesn't reappear,
but the house feels like she never left. The walls themselves seem to stiffen, as though listening. Ezra's phone buzzes at lunch. He glances down, hopeful for a text from his little brother, maybe the hospital calling about his mother. Instead, it's a new number. Unknown. You're being paid. Do your job. Stay out of hers. Ezra's blood chills. No signature. No context. But perfectly clear. He deletes the message. He's lived too many lives to mistake a threat for anything else. Later, he returns to Serafina's room. He announces himself softly before entering. He learned quickly that sudden movements make her flinch. But today, when he steps inside, she's not at her desk. She's sitting on the floor, knees tucked to her chest, facing the far wall. Ezra kneels beside her and follows her gaze. There, nearly invisible unless you're on the ground, is a long, thin scratch along the baseboard. Too deliberate, too evenly carved. It's not damage, it's a code. Serafina reaches behind her pillow and pulls out a tiny silver object, a broken piece of mechanical pencil. Ezra recognizes the metal edge immediately. She's been scratching something into the wall for years. "What is it?" he whispers. She uses the sharp tip to point. Ezra leans closer. The scratch marks form numbers. Dates. Hundreds of them etched in crooked rows. What are these? Days? Ezra runs his finger lightly along the earliest row. Serafina nods. He scans the wall. The earliest dates correspond to 10 years ago. The first one is the day her father died. A decade of marking. A decade of memory. A decade of warnings. Ezra's breath catches when he reaches a cluster of dates near the bottom. They repeat. Over and over. 3 dates. Carved deeper than all the others. One is bold, nearly gouged into the wood. September 12, 2015. Ezra frowns. What happened that day? Serafina's eyes flicker. Her breathing shortens. That's all he needs to know. He sits beside her. You don't have to speak. You never have to. But if you want to show me, he taps her sketchbook, draw it. Her hand shakes. Her eyes water, but she reaches for the pencil stub anyway. She draws slowly this time, precise, intentional. A mansion hallway, a balcony, a man's hand reaching for a railing, another hand, shadowy, pushing, and a little girl, her mouth open in a scream. Ezra nods. Your father. She flips the page. Another drawing. This one hits Ezra like a blow. A man kneeling, holding something, talking to her. Serafina draws his hair next, dark, his clothes, formal, his stance, tense. But then she draws his face. Ezra sucks in a breath. Even in simple pencil lines, the jawline is unmistakable. The cold expression, the posture, the height. Ezra feels the world tilt. It's her stepfather, Nathaniel Rothschild. Yet she writes only one word under the sketch. Before. Ezra feels something icy crawl up his spine. You saw him. Serafina nods, tears slipping down her cheeks. He threatened you. Another nod. Ezra clenches his jaw. That's why you stopped speaking. She hesitates. Then, with trembling hands, she writes, or I disappear too. Ezra's stomach drops. He knew this family was corrupt. He knew money like theirs hides blood. He knew people like Victoria treat pain like a negotiable transaction. But murder? Silencing a child witness? 10 years of threats? Ezra's hands shake with rage. You survived him. Serafina's gaze drops. Ezra lifts her chin gently. You're still surviving. A soft sob escapes her, silent but devastating. She leans forward, forehead against his shoulder. Ezra freezes for a moment, shocked by the contact, then wraps an arm gently around her. Shh, he whispers, rocking slightly. You're safe. You hear me? I'm not leaving. He means it, and that terrifies him, because this house isn't done. That night, after Serafina finally sleeps, Ezra steps into the hallway. He needs air, space to think, but the moment he enters the corridor, he hears it. A faint scrape, like someone dragging something heavy behind the wall. Ezra stops walking. The scraping stops too. He steps forward. The sound resumes. Closer. Deliberate. Ezra swallows hard. Hello? Silence. Then, click, click, click. A slow tapping sound like metal hitting wood. Ezra feels every muscle go rigid. This isn't pipes. This isn't settling walls. Someone is inside the walls. Watching. Tracking. Listening. He backs away slowly. All right, he mutters to himself. That's not normal. The tapping quickens. Tap, 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 tap. Ezra's pulse spikes. He moves faster. The tapping follows. Then, suddenly, it stops completely. Ezra spins around. Nothing. Just a hallway lined with expensive portraits. Men and women with cold eyes stare down at him like he's trespassing on sacred ground. He doesn't trust any of them. He doesn't trust the silence either. Ezra pushes on the panel that made the tapping sound. Nothing happens. He feels along the molding. His fingers hit a tiny indentation. He presses. A soft click. The panel shifts. Just a hair. Holy. Ezra pulls gently. The entire panel swings inward, revealing a narrow pitch-black passageway. Cold air spills out, carrying the scent of dust, old wood, and something else. Something metallic. Something like dried blood. Ezra's heart thunders in his chest. Someone used this space recently, and whoever that was, they were close enough to hear everything. Seraphina's drawings, her writing, her confession. Ezra backs away slowly and closes the panel. Not yet. Not alone. He goes straight back to Seraphina's room. She's asleep, curled defensively on the far side of the bed. Ezra pulls up a chair, sits beside her, and stays awake, just in case. Because someone is moving inside the walls of this house. Someone who watched a little girl witness a murder. Someone who kept her silent. Someone who is now watching Ezra, too. Around 3 in the morning, when the house finally stops creaking, Ezra's eyes grow heavy. He leans back in the chair, letting his mind drift. A breath touches his ear. Not a draft. Not imagination. A whisper. So soft he isn't sure he heard it right. Turn back while you still can. Ezra jolts upright. Seraphina remains asleep. The voice came from the wall beside him. Ezra stands, fists clenched, heart slamming so hard it hurts. Who's there? He hisses. Silence. He steps closer. The panel is cold. Still. Dead. But Ezra doesn't need an answer. He already knows the truth. Whatever killed Seraphina's father didn't stay buried. It stayed here. In the walls. Waiting. Ezra doesn't sleep for even a second. Every time he closes his eyes, he hears that whisper again. Too close. Too knowing. Turn back while you still can. The threat sits in his chest like a shard of ice. He's been threatened before, by foster parents, by dealers on corners, by men with knives who didn't like the way he looked at them, but this is different. This threat didn't come from someone standing in front of him. It came from the walls, from someone who knew exactly what he had uncovered, someone who wasn't afraid, someone who'd been doing this for 10 years. As the first thin line of dawn light creeps between the curtains, Ezra stands, stretches the stiffness from his neck, and looks at Seraphina. She's still asleep, but not peacefully. Her eyebrows twitch, her fingers curl into her sheets, and her lips move without sound, a silent scream trapped in her throat. Ezra gently shakes her shoulder. Hey, Seraphina, wake up. She jolts upright, eyes wide, chest rising and falling like she's drowning. Ezra presses a steady hand to her back. It's okay. I'm here. She stares at him with panic still swirling behind her pupils, but it softens, just barely, when she sees his face. Her breathing slows. She trusts him. He doesn't know how much that's worth, but he knows she's never given it to anyone else in 10 years. And now, her safety is tied to him, whether he likes it or not.
Downstairs, breakfast is its usual suffocating mix of forced smiles and thinly veiled contempt. Maria, the cook, gives Ezra an extra-large plate behind Harrison's back, whispering, "You too skinny. They don't need it as much as you do." She pats his arm and returns to the stove before Harrison re-enters. The butler glances at Ezra with a sneer. "Eat quickly. Mrs. Rothschild wants progress today." Progress. As if Serafina is a malfunctioning device he's been hired to repair. Ezra forces down 3 bites and stands. "I'm taking her outside today." Harrison stiffens. "That is against routine." Ezra shrugs. "Then change the routine." He doesn't wait for permission. He's already climbing the stairs when Harrison snaps behind him, "Don't push your luck, boy." Ezra stops. Turns. Looks him dead in the eye. "I'm not here for luck." Harrison flinches. Ezra walks away. The Rothschilds' backyard is the size of an entire Bronx block. Perfectly manicured, trimmed hedges, fountains shaped like angels. But the gates are 12 feet tall and covered in ivy, and the guard's hut sits in the far corner. A gilded cage. Serafina steps outside with hesitant, tiny movements, like she's afraid the sky might collapse. The sunlight hits her face, and she squints, lifting a hand as if the brightness hurts. Ezra guides her to the fountain. "You haven't been outside much?" She shakes her head slowly. "Why not?" She sits on the stone ledge and draws a small circle on her thigh with her finger, a nervous tick. Then she glances toward the mansion. Ezra follows her gaze. The curtains in Nathaniel Rothschild's office flutter slightly. He's watching. Ezra steps forward, blocking Serafina from view with his body. "You want to walk?" he asks softly. She looks up at him, then stands. Her first steps are stiff, timid, but after a minute she begins to walk in small circles around the fountain, barefoot, toes brushing the cool grass. Something shifts in her face, a loosening, a tiny breath of freedom. Ezra almost smiles, but then he sees it. A faint discoloration on the stone beneath the fountain's lip. Dried brown smears. He crouches, pretending to tie his sneaker, and touches the mark with his thumb. Blood. Old. But not old enough. Serafina freezes when she notices what he's looking at. Then her chest begins to rise and fall faster, panic flooding back into her eyes. Ezra presses a steady hand to her back. "It's okay. Just show me." She kneels beside him and reaches under the fountain's edge, fingers sliding into a crack between stones. She pulls at something, and a small object clinks to the ground. Ezra picks it up. A silver ring, men's size, engraved with the initials E.R. Ezra frowns. Who? Serafina grabs his wrist, shakes his violently, and points again toward the mansion. Ezra looks up at the window. Nathaniel Rothschild is gone. The curtains sway gently. He's watching from somewhere else now. Ezra pockets the ring. "All right, not here. Inside." She nods once, trembling. They return to the house with Ezra walking half a step ahead, ready to shield her from whoever might appear. Inside, Victoria stands at the base of the stairs, arms folded, lips twisted like she smells something foul. "What were you doing outside?" she asks sharply. Ezra answers calmly. "Trying something new." "You don't get to try things here. You follow instructions." "Your instructions weren't working." She stares at him, cold and furious. "You think you know better than specialists?" "I think Serafina needs air." A dangerous silence stretches between them. Victoria smiles, tight, cold, poisonous. "Let me make one thing perfectly clear," she whispers. "This girl is an investment. Her condition, her silence, her fragility, they serve a purpose. She is not your little charity project." Ezra's jaw tenses. "She's a person." Victoria lifts her chin. "Not to me." Ezra's stomach churns. Victoria continues. You will not fill her head with ideas, you will not encourage defiance, and you will not, under any circumstances, ask questions about her father. Ezra goes still. Dead still. Victoria's expression flickers. She realizes she said too much. Her smile falters, just for a second before she recovers. That topic is closed. Permanently. She turns sharply and walks away. Ezra waits until she disappears around the corner before letting out a slow breath. She slipped. She knows Ezra is getting too close, which means he's running out of time. Back in Serafina's room, Ezra pulls out the ring. "ER," he murmurs. "That's not your father's initials." Serafina reaches for a notebook and writes, "Not his." "The guard." Ezra blinks. "Guard? What guard?" She draws a small figure in uniform, then another sketch, a staircase, the guard falling, blood. Ezra's throat tightens. "How long ago?" She scribbles, "Months." Ezra closes his eyes for a moment. "Did someone push him?" Serafina hesitates. Her hand trembles. Then she writes, "He asked questions." Ezra's pulse spikes. "And?" She flips the page. Writes 2 words. "He disappeared." Ezra exhales slowly. A murder, 10 years ago. A witness silenced, a guard recently killed, a secret passage, a whispering voice, and a stepfather who watches everything. This isn't a family tragedy. It's a cover-up. A long one. A bloody one. And now Ezra is tangled in the middle of it. While Serafina draws calming patterns to control her anxiety, Ezra explores the edge of her closet, remembering the hidden passage panel from the night before. He presses different areas of molding, testing each section with controlled pressure. Nothing. Right when he's about to give up, click. A small square of wall slides inward an inch. Ezra freezes. Serafina's head snaps up, eyes widening. Ezra pushes the panel fully open. Behind it sits a narrow shelf. On the shelf, a dusty manila folder. He pulls it out. Serafina shakes her head violently, reaching to stop him. Ezra whispers, "It's okay. We need to know." On the front, written in faded ink, "Rothschild, incident report, confidential, do not disclose." Ezra opens it. Inside are photographs. A body, broken at the bottom of a staircase, blood staining marble floors. A small blonde child crouched beside the body, crying. Serafina. Ezra feels bile rise in his throat. The next photograph? Nathaniel Rothschild standing over the body with an unreadable expression. But the timestamp, it's minutes before police arrived. He was there. He was first. Ezra flips the page. Typed notes. Subject claims Daddy was pushed. Subject became hysterical after attempting to speak. Immediate mutism onset. Recommends suppression protocols. Stepmother agrees. Ezra stops reading. He can't.
He might tear the whole damn file apart. He looks at Serafina, whose entire body is shaking again. He kneels beside her. "You're not crazy," he whispers. "They did this to you." Her bottom lip trembles. "You're not broken." Her eyes fill with tears. "You're brave." Her tears fall. "And I'm not letting them hurt you again." Ezra closes the file. He knows what comes next. He's going to expose them. All of them. But before he can act, before he can plan, before he can breathe, a voice drifts from the hidden panel behind him. Not a whisper this time. A man's voice. Calm. Amused. How sweet. Ezra freezes. Serafina goes rigid with terror. The voice continues. But you're too late. A shadow shifts behind the wall, and the panel slams shut.
Morning didn't arrive gently. It slammed into the Calloway estate in a wave of chaos, accusations, and whispers that spread through the halls like wildfire. Maya barely slept. Every creak in the old mansion made her flinch. Every shadow seemed to shift with secrets she had only just begun to understand. Her mind replayed the previous night over and over. The blood smeared on the staircase, Arthur's lifeless eyes, Ethan's unreadable expression, and the dreadful silence that followed. By dawn, the estate buzzed not with servants but with police officers, medical examiners, and hushed voices. Maya stayed in Mrs. Calloway's room, refusing to leave her side. Clara slept restlessly, murmuring fragments of old memories that Maya didn't yet understand. The door opened sharply. Ethan entered. He didn't look like the controlled, icy man she had met on her first day. His tie was loose, his jaw clenched, and the exhaustion in his eyes hinted at battles fought long before the current one. "You should eat something," he said, voice low. Maya didn't answer. She simply smoothed a blanket over Clara's fragile frame. Ethan stepped closer. "Maya." "She's terrified," she whispered. "Your uncle, your only family left, died in your home. She keeps mumbling something about it starting again. What does that mean? What happened in this house?" His jaw tightened. "Not now." "Then when?" Maya snapped, surprising both of them. "Because people are dying, Ethan, and your mother, she knows more than she's able to say." He didn't respond immediately. His hand brushed over his face, slow and weary. "The police want to talk to you." Her stomach twisted. "About what?" "You found my uncle. You were last in that hallway. They're looking for inconsistencies." "Inconsistencies?" Her voice cracked. "I didn't do anything." "I know," Ethan said, and that simple certainty hit harder than she expected. "But they're trying to understand the timeline. And Regina—" He paused. Maya's heart sunk. "What did she do now?" "She has made statements about you." The bitterness in his voice could have corroded the floor. "She claims she saw you near my uncle's study earlier than you said. Claims you were arguing with him. Claims you've been obsessed with this family." Maya stared at him. "She's lying. She knows she's lying." "She doesn't care," Ethan said quietly. "She wants someone to blame. And she chose the maid. Again." The words tasted of iron. He glanced at Maya's trembling hands. "I won't let them pin this on you." She swallowed hard. "But they'll try. Then we'll deal with it." The "we" sounded strange, dangerous, comforting. Before either could say more, footsteps echoed outside, a soft knock. Detective Reyes stepped in, stern-faced, sharp-eyed, and already suspicious. "Maya Williams," she said, nodding politely, but coolly. "We need to speak with you." Ethan stepped forward. "She's not leaving my mother." Reyes's expression didn't waver. "She's not under arrest. Just a few questions. Cooperation would look good." Maya inhaled shakily, then stood. "It's fine. I'll go." Ethan gave her a look, not permission, but warning. Reyes gestured for Maya to follow her down the hallway. Officers glanced at her as she passed, some with curiosity, others with thinly veiled judgment. They reached the main study, now transformed into a temporary interrogation space, the same room where Arthur had died. The stain on the carpet already scrubbed, but not forgotten. Maya's knees wobbled. Reyes motioned to a chair. "Please." Maya sat, clasping her hands to keep them from shaking. Reyes took the opposite chair. "Walk me through last night again." "I already did," she whispered. "Then do it again." So Maya repeated every detail. The scream, the blood, the fall, the way Arthur's hand had been outstretched as if reaching for someone who wasn't there. Reyes listened, silent and calculating. And this is the same story you told Mr. Calloway? Yes. Strange, because Miss Regina Lawrence gave a very different account. Maya closed her eyes briefly. She's lying. Reyes tapped a pen against her notepad. She claims she saw you shove Arthur. Maya jerked up. She what? She says she witnessed you arguing with him about your employment here. Something about you threatening to expose family secrets. That's not true! I nearly stood, but Reyes motioned her down. I didn't even know Arthur. I've barely been here a week. And yet you found the body, Reyes said calmly. I heard him fall. Maya's breath came in shallow gasps. Why would I kill anyone? Why would I? Reyes held up a hand. I'm not accusing you. I'm collecting information. But her eyes said otherwise. Maya folded into herself, her voice trembling. Mrs. Calloway was having an episode. She was scared. I was with her almost the entire night. Except for the moment you weren't, Reyes countered. I exhaled shakily. Yes, I went to get her medication. That's when you heard the scream, Reyes finished. Convenient timing. Maya felt the walls press in. Do you think I'm lying? Reyes didn't answer. Footsteps approached. Ethan entered without knocking. We're done here, he said, stepping between them. Reyes frowned. I'm conducting with my lawyer. My staff is not speaking to anyone without legal counsel present. Reyes stared him down, but Ethan didn't budge. Finally, she stood. We'll continue later. When she left, Maya released a shuddering breath. Ethan turned to her, eyes fierce. Are you all right? No, she whispered. He exhaled slowly. She's doing her job, but Regina is making things worse. Why's she doing this? Because she knows she's about to lose everything, Ethan murmured, and she needs someone to burn before she goes down. A tremor ran through Maya. Ethan, if the police believe her, if this goes any further, I could... You won't, Ethan said sharply. I'll make sure of it. His certainty wasn't comforting. It was frightening, because it sounded like a promise he would break the world to keep. They walked back to Clara's room in tense silence. But when they reached the door, they froze. Clara was awake and crying. Maya rushed to her side. What happened? Are you in pain? Clara shook her head weakly. Your uncle. He wasn't supposed to die like that. Maya blinked. Mrs. Calloway, what do you mean? Clara's voice dropped to a trembling whisper. It's happening again, just like before. The house, it won't let them leave. Maya and Ethan exchanged a look, one filled with dread neither dared to say out loud. Because whatever Clara meant, Maya had the sinking feeling it wasn't madness. It was memory. And the real backlash had only just begun.
The storm outside built slowly as morning faded into a bruised, heavy afternoon. The air felt electric, restless, like the mansion itself was holding its breath. Maya stayed close to Clara, helping her eat a few spoonfuls of broth while Ethan paced the room like a man at war with himself. Clara dozed again, leaving Maya and Ethan alone in the dimly lit bedroom. Maya finally worked up the courage to speak. Last night, you didn't seem surprised. Ethan paused mid-stride. About what? Your uncle's death. Silence expanded between them. Ethan looked at the rain-streaked windows before answering. Surprised? No. Shocked? Yes. That's the same thing. No. He turned to her, his expression unreadable. Not in this family. Maya studied him. Ethan Calloway was always controlled. Too controlled. Men like him didn't let fear show, didn't let grief show, didn't let anything show unless it served a purpose. But today something cracked around the edges. What aren't you telling me? Maya pressed softly. Ethan ran a hand through his thick, dark hair. It doesn't matter.
It does. People are dying. Police think I had something to do with it. Your mother is terrified out of her mind. Regina is actively trying to frame me for murder. Arthur is dead. Whatever is happening started long before I arrived here, and I think you know that." Her voice trembled, but her resolve did not. Ethan stared at her for a long moment, and she sensed the internal war raging behind his eyes. He finally exhaled. "My mother's not wrong. This house has history." "What kind of history?" Ethan hesitated. Maya took a step toward him. "Ethan." His voice dropped to a whisper. "People connected to this house don't die peacefully." A chill ran down Maya's spine. "That's not possible. That sounds insane?" Ethan finished. "Yes, I know. But you believe her." "Because I've seen it." Maya's heart thudded painfully. "Seen what?" He opened his mouth, but the door creaked open suddenly. Regina stepped inside. Her makeup was flawless, her dress immaculate. Even her hair seemed to glow in the storm-dimmed light, like she wasn't the woman who had screamed accusations at Maya only hours before, like she wasn't the one feeding lies to the police. "Maya," she said sweetly, poison wrapped in silk, "I need to speak with Ethan. Alone." Ethan's jaw clenched. "No." Regina blinked, thrown off. "No?" "You lost that right when you decided to weaponize lies." Regina's smile thinned. "I only told the police what I saw." "You weren't even in the hallway," Maya snapped before she could stop herself. Her gaze flicked toward her, cold, amused. "Oh, sweetheart, you really think anyone will believe you? You're the help. A disposable employee with no history, no wealth, no influence. And yet here you are, acting like you matter." Maya felt the words hit like slapped skin. Ethan stepped forward. "You need to leave." Regina looked at him, eyes softening into something sadder, more dangerous. "Ethan, you're making a mistake." She paused. "You think she's innocent? You think she cares about you? She's playing you, just like the others did." Maya stiffened. "The others?" Regina turned, giving her a smile that could have cut through bone. "Oh, darling, he didn't tell you." Ethan has a pattern. Stray girls he feels compelled to rescue. The last one disappeared. The one before that tried to set the house on fire. But maybe you'll fare better. Maybe you'll last more than a few weeks before— "Get out," Ethan said, the command low and lethal. Regina's eyes glittered maliciously as she stepped out of the room. When the door clicked shut, Maya turned to Ethan. Was she lying? Ethan didn't answer. Maya's chest tightened. Tell me she was lying. Still nothing. An icy dread began to settle over her skin. Ethan. Finally he spoke, and she almost wished he hadn't. They weren't girlfriends. His voice sounded hollow. They were caretakers. For my mother. Maya blinked. Caretakers? Yes, like you. Ethan sank into the leather chair near the window. My mother hasn't been well for years. She becomes unpredictable. She sees things, remembers things she shouldn't, forgets what's real. And the others, what happened to them? They left. Regina's voice echoed in Maya's mind. The last one disappeared. Left, Maya repeated slowly, or disappeared. Ethan's eyes met hers, dark, shadowed, exhausted. Ethan, I don't know. Lightning flashed, illuminating the room in stark white. Maya's breath caught. Ethan, people don't just vanish. They do in this house. The floor felt like it was falling out beneath her.
Before she could respond, a sudden crash echoed downstairs. Glass breaking, voices shouting, heavy footsteps running. Maya jolted. Ethan stood instantly. "Stay with my mother." "What's happening?" "I don't know, but I'll find out." He left before she could protest. Maya turned to Clara, who was now trembling violently. "It's starting. It's starting again." "Mrs. Calloway," Maya said softly, taking her hand, "I need you to tell me what you mean." Clara's eyes opened, wide, wild, terrified. "The walls remember. The walls don't forget. Blood stays. It always stays." "Please," Maya begged, "help me understand. Why are you so afraid?" "Because it knows you're here now, and it doesn't like new girls." A chill raked down Maya's spine. "What doesn't like new girls?" Clara's hand tightened around hers with surprising strength. "The house. The house chooses who leaves." Another crash echoed downstairs, followed by a scream. Maya jolted. Ethan stood instantly. "Stay with my mother." "What's happening?" "I don't know, but I'll find out." He left before she could protest. Maya turned to Clara, who was now trembling violently. "It's starting. It's starting again." "Mrs. Calloway," Maya said softly, taking her hand, "I need you to tell me what you mean." Clara's eyes opened, wide, wild, terrified. "The walls remember. The walls don't forget. Blood stays. It always stays." "Please," Maya begged, "help me understand. Why are you so afraid?" "Because it knows you're here now, and it doesn't like new girls." A chill raked down Maya's spine. "What doesn't like new girls?" Claire's hand tightened around hers with surprising strength. "The house. The house chooses who leaves." Another crash echoed downstairs, followed by a scream. Maya jolted. Ethan stood instantly. "Stay with my mother." "What's happening?" "I don't know, but I'll find out." He left before she could protest. Maya turned to Clara, who was now trembling violently. "It's starting," Clara whispered. "It's starting again." "Mrs. Calloway," Maya said softly, taking her hand, "I need you to tell me what you mean." Clara's eyes opened, wide, wild, terrified. "The walls remember. The walls don't forget. Blood stays. It always stays." "Please," Maya begged, "help me understand. Why are you so afraid?" "Because it knows you're here now," Clara whispered, "and it doesn't like new girls." A chill raked down Maya's spine. "What doesn't like new girls?" Clara's hand tightened around hers with surprising strength. "The house," she breathed. "The house chooses who leaves." Another crash echoed downstairs, followed by a scream. Maya jumped to her feet, heart pounding violently. She grabbed the phone to call Ethan, but the line was dead. The lights flickered once, twice. The mansion groaned, ancient wood stretching like something waking up. Then every light in the house went out. Clara whimpered. Maya swallowed her rising fear. The thunder rolled outside, long and trembling, and through the darkness, from somewhere deep within the mansion, Maya heard it. A slow, rhythmic knocking. Not on the door. Inside the walls. Like something, or someone, was trying to get out. The backlash wasn't from the town, or the police, or Regina. It was the house, and it had only just begun. The mansion felt alive. Not metaphorically, not poetically. Alive. Breathing in the walls, trembling through the floors, exhaling soft groans that sounded too human to be the weather, too deliberate to be old wood.
Maya froze in the pitch-black room, listening to the slow, rhythmic knocking coming from somewhere behind the wallpaper. Each thud carried a pulse of dread through her ribs. Clara clutched sheets, whispering feverishly, "It's awake. It's awake. Oh, God, not again." Maya grabbed her arm gently. "Mrs. Calloway, please. You have to tell me what this is." Clara's eyes flared, pale and glassy in the darkness. "The house remembers what was done here." "What was done?" "The girls," Clara whispered. "All the girls before you. The ones who went missing." Maya's breath hitched. "Ethan said they left." "They tried, but the house won't let them go if they know too much." A wave of ice swept through Maya's stomach. Another knock echoed, this time closer. Maya forced herself to move. She squeezed Clara's hand and climbed off the bed. "We have to find Ethan." "No," Clara choked. "He'll be next. Don't you understand? He's the last one who knows." "Knows what?" Before Clara could answer, a loud slam shook the hallway just outside. Maya darted to the door and cracked it open. The corridor was dark, except for intermittent flashes of lightning from the windows. Shadows stretched unnaturally, crawling up the walls like skeletal fingers. And there, halfway down the hall, Ethan stood frozen, breathing hard, his silhouette sharp against the flickering light. "Ethan," Maya whispered urgently. He didn't turn. "Ethan?" This time he flinched, then whipped his head toward her. His face was pale, jaw clenched. "Stay inside," he ordered. "Now." "What's happening?" "I don't know." But his eyes said otherwise. He knew something, and Maya was about to demand answers when a figure appeared behind him in the darkness. A woman. Or the shape of one. Long hair, a thin gown, bare feet dragging along the hardwood. Maya's breath strangled in her throat. "Ethan," she whispered, voice trembling. "Behind you." He spun around. Lightning flashed through the hallway window and illuminated the figure fully. A young woman. Blonde. Hollow-eyed. Wet hair clinging to her face like seaweed. Her skin was translucent, tinged blue, as if she'd drowned moments ago. Ethan staggered back. "No. No." The woman reached out a shaking hand toward him. Maya recognized her from the photo hidden inside the locked drawer. Lillian. The last caretaker. The one who disappeared. Maya grabbed the doorframe to keep from collapsing. Lillian's lips parted, and in a voice like water dripping down stone, she whispered, "Help me." The hallway lights flickered back on with a violent surge, and the woman vanished, but a slick trail of water remained on the floor. Ethan staggered back, clutching his chest. This can't be happening." Maya rushed to him. "Ethan, who was she?" He looked shattered. "Someone I couldn't save." "It wasn't your fault." "Yes, it was. I knew what the house did to people who asked questions, and I let her keep asking." "Ethan," footsteps thundered up the stairs. Harrison appeared, face ashen, his usually stiff posture broken. "You two, downstairs, now." Maya straightened. "What's happening?" "It's your fault," he hissed. "You brought this, ever since you arrived." Ethan snapped. "Don't." "Arthur is dead," Harrison said, voice trembling. "Lights failing, doors unlocking on their own, the power system fried, water seeping from walls that have never leaked in a century." His eyes darted wildly. "It's all starting again, the way it did the year Lillian vanished." Maya's jaw clenched. "Start talking, all of you!" But Harrison was already backing away. "The mistress wants you, now." Regina. Of course. Maya exchanged a glance with Ethan. Then they followed Harrison. The mansion's dining hall glowed with candlelight, casting distorted shadows across the high walls. Regina stood at the head of the long table, perfectly composed except for the tremor in her hand. She gestured to the chairs. Sit. Maya remained standing. Ethan too. Regina's lips thinned. Suit yourself. She stared at Maya with a hatred sharpened to a razor's edge. This all began the day you arrived. That's not true, Maya said quietly. This house has been hiding something for years. This house? No. This family, maybe. Ethan stiffened. Mother, your uncle didn't die because of Maya. He died because he finally told me what he'd been keeping from us. The room tensed. What was he keeping? Maya demanded. Regina's face contorted. Grief, rage, terror, all fighting for a home behind her eyes. The truth about your father, she told Ethan. Ethan froze. My father died in an accident. Regina shook her head. No. Lightning cracked the sky outside. He was murdered. Silence fell like a guillotine. Maya felt the air leave her lungs. By who? Regina swallowed hard. By the same person who killed the caretakers. By the reason Lillian never made it out of this house. By the reason Arthur tried to run. Ethan stepped forward, trembling. Tell me. Regina's voice dropped to a whisper. Your father. Ethan's knees nearly buckled. Maya grabbed his arm to steady him. Regina pressed a shaking hand to her temple. He didn't just suffer episodes. He became someone else. Something else. The doctors couldn't explain it. The house made it worse, fed it, twisted it. Maya shook her head slowly. That makes no sense. No, Regina snapped. You heard the walls, you saw the water, you saw the girl. They all went still. Regina stared at Ethan with raw, broken fear. Your father changed the moment we moved into this place, and you have the same blood. Maya felt Ethan stiffen beside her. Regina whispered bitterly. That's why I can't protect you from this. You belong to the house, and it's coming for you next. A violent crash echoed upstairs. Clara's scream ripped through the mansion. Ethan's breath seized. Mother. All three of them bolted from the dining hall, sprinting toward the main staircase. The house trembled, walls rattling like bones under strain. They could feel it, an awareness, an ancient hunger radiating through every floorboard. They burst through Clara's bedroom door, but it was empty. The window was open, curtains blowing violently in the storm wind. What? No. Ethan stumbled to the window, searching the darkness outside. Mother! Regina looked around wildly. She didn't climb out. Someone took her. Maya stepped closer to the wall and froze. There on the wallpaper were wet fingerprints. Small, feminine, leading directly into the wall, like someone had walked straight through it. Lightning slashed across the sky, and a voice whispered behind Maya's ear. You're next. Maya spun around, but the room was empty. Only the wind. Only the dark. Only the house breathing. And for the first time since the mansion had awakened, Maya understood. This was not a haunting. It was a hunger. And it would not stop until it consumed every last secret and every last soul still trapped inside. The final silence had begun.